Good evening, everybody. So glad that you guys can join us here for another live broadcast. I hope you guys had a wonderful day, and really appreciate you being here. And yeah, we're going to be getting into it in a minute. So if you're watching this and you're like, I just hear music, get to the point. You know, I always got to go through this. It's because it's a live broadcast. All right. So if you're watching this and it's the recorded version, it's because we're live. Okay. And but it's always good to kind of hear some nice music too, right? So anyway, so we're going to be getting into the night tonight. Sorry, kind of run on there. And we're just giving people about a minute, and then we're going to go ahead and jump right in and get started to our topic, okay? Good to see everybody in the chat as always. Thank you so much again for joining, and we'll be starting in less than 1 minute. For this broadcast. And like I said, again, I hope you guys had a wonderful day. We are already at Tuesday, and we are speeding towards the center of November. My goodness. The next thing you know, it's going to be Thanksgiving, regardless if you celebrate it or not. That's irrelevant. I'm just talking about time. All right. And just saying, and just pointing out the fact that, man, this time is going fast. And then next thing you know, it's going to be December. So, man, it's going, ain't it? Well, anyway, good to see you, and good to see everybody here. Really appreciate it. If you haven't done so already, make sure you go check out our our store. Oh, I don't have a special sound for this individual here, but this right here, check it out. Hold on. This person just became a member. Woo! That's your sound, okay? Woo! All right. Maybe I'll do a run for you. That's the special sound I have, okay? Well, good. Thank you and welcome. And make sure you follow the, in the video instructions that I give when people, before you join, you get access to a library that has close to 200 books that you can access. Yes, and you can access it for free. Just don't resell them because we ain't going to get in trouble around here, among other things as well. So make sure you pay attention to that intro video. And again, welcome. All right, but anyway, so really appreciate that. Again, let's go ahead and get to what I was talking about here, Sabtreecom. If you haven't checked out the website, make sure you do it, Sabtreecom. Sabtreecom. This is our store here. You know, we talk about a lot of things on this platform here on YouTube, and we point out a lot of things. But the difference that I hope we bring here is that we're not just talking, all right? Because everybody can talk about the problems, but not everybody is equipped or even want to give any kind of solutions. Well, we want to do that. And one of the main goal of Sabtreecom, or two of the main goals, is that we want to eradicate high blood pressure and diabetes. That's what we want to do amongst our people, black folks. This is our goal. We want to eliminate it because there's far too many of our people who have been suffering from this, and they have been subjected to years and years and years and years of pharmaceuticals. And enough of that. There's a lot of things within nature that you can add to your body that will eliminate it. All right. There's plenty of things out here. All right. You don't have to be subjected to that for the rest of your life. And I remember I had a doctor that tried to tell me that, well, if anybody in your family has it, you just might as well go ahead and settle that you gonna get it too. I said, shut up. I didn't tell him that. I said it in my mind. I didn't tell him that for real. But yeah, gonna try to tell me that you gonna have it for the rest of your life if someone else in your family had it. No, I ain't gonna have it, and I don't have it. And guess what? You don't have to have it either. So we have an entire store of different hand-selected herbs and stuff that we personally have suggested it to many other people. And boy, do we have receipts. We got a ton of receipts of people who have already been seeing the differences in their health and in their wellness. And also this stuff contributes to your mental health as well. We've been pointing out all the crazies and stuff that's out here, people just showing who they really are. And part of that, it ties into your diet and the things that you are versus what you're not adding to your body. And so we got a whole store here of different things that you can check out. As I'm running my mouth here, I'm just pointing out some of the things here. Soursop leaves, by the way, I got a message here. We are about to make that available for bulk order. So if you are looking to bulk, want to buy soursop leaves in bulk order, you will be able to do that real soon. So stay tuned for that. Let me make sure that I'm telling that right. Yeah, that's right. And then we also want to give a shout out to everybody that that sponsored, people, down in Rockdale County, with the whole respiratory situation that's going on there. And we're going to be revisiting that story soon again and giving you updates on that. So we really appreciate those who stepped up and stepped in, to try to, we've been sending some stuff down there to people down there who are in need, and really appreciate you guys doing that. So if you haven't checked it out, again, we got a ton of stuff here on Sabtreecom, Sabtreecom. All right. And then if you're not subscribed to it, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube page. I just uploaded a video over there too. Boy, I had a wonderful day the other day. We went hiking, kind of like in a mountain area and all that. And I got some beautiful video footage of that. And it's just, it's the channel, and all what we do is about the whole wellness thing. It's about everything. It ain't just selling you products. We just want your mind and your whole entire being to get right. You know what I'm saying? Even on what you put on your plate. We even developed our own seasonings as well. Black seed and pepper combined, and we call it 50-50 pepper. We also got Bladderwrack Savory Seasoning Blend. These are things you ain't gonna find at the grocery store, but you'll definitely find it here over on Sabtreecom. All right. So again, really appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for joining us today. And we're gonna get into this topic here. I've been seeing it floating around today. They said, oh my God, Trump is now giving white people, he's giving them reparations. Well, we're gonna look into that. We're gonna actually listen to what he's actually saying, and we're going to go back a little bit, and we're going to see why he's saying what he's saying. And I'm gonna tell you, it's yet another one of those conversations where we got to be honest. All right, I'm just telling you right now, so we're just gonna be what it's gonna be. Let me if you didn't see this right here, hold on. YouTube. Let's go to our community page where, I try to keep very active on that. Let me get to our community page right here. If you haven't seen it, this latest post that I put up earlier today. Oh, let me get it up here. Trying to find my way over here. I've been kind of working on my computer and stuff today. Anyway, so this is something I posted earlier today. If you didn't see it, I said the leadership of New Birth boldly stated that Kamala was God's choice for the hour. And certainly they're not the only church. There were plenty of churches all across America that said that she's the modern day Esther, that God appointed her for such a time as this and all of this stuff here. So they said that boldly, bold declarations. This is God has appointed her to be in the big house, right? That's what they said, right? But then she lost. So then they changed the narrative, threw their God on the discount rack, and now claim that racism has overpowered their God's choice. Isn't that something how they're able to switch the narrative that big? You're going to boldly say that God has said that this woman is going to the White House. That's what God said. He told me, I sensed it in my spirit. I sensed it. That's what he said is going to happen. But all of a sudden now, apparently God, he can own the cat on 1,000 hills, but he can't stop Republicans. Man, that's quite something, ain't it? Anyway. So just this past Sunday, the very same women in that church are now seeking comfort from the real misogynist right in front of them who cheated on at least 5 women. And I was looking at this, it came up. You know how YouTube is. Once you click on someone's channel, you may watch a couple of their videos. Now all of a sudden it's like showing you all their videos. So now New Birth, even though I'm not subscribed to them, their videos keep coming up over and over again. And so this past Sunday it came up, and then I saw them working that crowd. Boy, they were working that crowd. They were working that crowd, pulling up every scripture. I was like, wait a minute, didn't you just tell them that God was going to anyway? And then I said, so here they're going. They're going to call this man forever, ever, ever, ever. Oh, anybody that, if you're a black man and you don't vote for him, you're a misogynist. You don't vote for her, you're a misogynist. Just like Trump, you're a misogynist. This Negro, a misogynist. One of the things a misogynist does, he objectifies women. This man done objectified at least 5 women. One woman had to chase him down because he didn't want to acknowledge that the child she had from him was his. But yet this man is up here whooping all hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, even thousands of black women. And he got them swooning under the anointing. And he the biggest one up there. And then on top of that, he take their money every week. He don't take it, they give it to him. And so anyway, but this past Sunday, it was just not just there, but all over the country. The same preachers all of a sudden now, God, sometime, he got a different plan. Wait a minute, Negro, you just said that his plan was to get the Indian in office. That's what you said. But now all of a sudden he changed his mind again. I thought the Bible said that he changes not, but you do. You change just as often, you change with more women than he do. Time I turn around, you got a new woman. Anyway, let's go. What did I say? I said the black church had the nerve to attack straight black men of good character during these elections, while they're at the same time setting up misogynists, crooks, child predators, women abusers as the voice of God. Oh boy. This is all over the country. And I'm going to go there, not tonight, but in our next installment of the series I'm working on right now. And I said, and who is the they are propping up as these bad examples of black men? Who's the they? Who's the they who's propping up the misogynist? Well, take a look at the video. Take a look at the clip. That's the they right there. They're propping them up. And we're supposed to just look over this. Listen, this week I will have the next installment of the video that we have over on our long form history channel. All right. And you can see the first installment. If you go on our community page here, you'll see the first installment. The name of that series is right here. It's right here. Let me get it up for you. The name of that series is right here. It's called The Black Church, A Factory of Broken Children. And we're at part 1, and it's ancient roots. We go to the ancient roots. And how ancient am I going? I'm going all the way back to ancient Greece. Sorry about that. Ancient Greece. We mentioned Egypt, but ancient Greece. So if you haven't watched that video, you need to watch it. Now in part 2, that's where we're going to hit the fast forward button. And we're going to come to what was established by the Greeks is now being played out and right in front of our eyes here, today, all over in any church. But we're focused on the black church. So when I'm talking about, I had somebody talking about, and I knew it was going to come, but what you saying is, you just talking about black people. It's everywhere. Yes, I know that. I've been saying that. But we're talking about the black church. It doesn't make the black church any worse than the white church, okay? It's the system. It's the system. I'm not talking about the people per se, because you have some very good people in the church system. But we're talking about the system and anybody that is unwilling to challenge the system. That's what we're looking at. Now, one of the things I'm going to talk about in this next series, in this next installment, is that Charles Blake of the Church of God in Christ, I got the memos. These are memos, okay? This is coming out from them. He acknowledged that every year, now this is when he was up and around and, he was over coaching. He said every year, the Church of God in Christ spends at least $800,000 in settlements. And just about all of those settlements have to do with bishops, preachers, pastors under that umbrella who have committed sexual abuse, or at least been accused of it, under the Kojic umbrella. $800,000. Now that's going back then. And then a couple of years later, they came out and said, now it's well over $1 million. Again, you're getting into like 2010, 2009 or 10. I got the memo up. It was up even more. We're in 2024 right now. What is it up to now? So yeah, we're going to address all of this. We're going to address all of it. We're going to address all of it because this factory has to be shut down. We're going to have to protect our children. We got to protect our boys, and we got to protect our young ladies too that are in this factory, this system factory. And there are a lot of people who have been touched and abused in this system, and it's got to be brought down. Before you want to talk about the government and what you're trying to do with the government, we got to bring this factory down that's right in our own backyard. It must be brought down, period. End of discussion. It must be brought down. Okay? I'm being very clear with that. All righty. So let's go ahead and get into what we're going to talk about tonight. Let's go ahead and get to the video here. Now, this is the video that people have been commenting on. This is Trump. Every day he's been coming out with videos. He hasn't been sworn in or anything like that. But this is where typically the person that is been elected as president during this time between now and the day that they are sworn in, they're laying out kind of the outline of what their administration is going to be doing. Now, does it really pan out within the 4 years? It's to be seen. Some of it is, some of it is not. You understand? So he's been, already kind of outlining who he's going to appoint and all this other stuff. So we'll see. Those appointments, I think they still got to be, go through the process just like everybody else. But anyway, here's the video that he did. And let me go ahead and get this up and let's take a listen to what he is saying here. All right, let's go. Turn that up. Let's take a listen.
Tuition costs at colleges and universities have been exploding, and I mean absolutely exploding, while academics have been obsessed with indoctrinating America's youth. The time has come to reclaim our once great educational institutions from the radical left, and we will do that. Our secret weapon will be the college accreditation system. It's called accreditation for a reason. The accreditors are supposed to ensure that schools are not ripping off students and taxpayers, but they have failed totally. When I return to the White House, I will fire the radical left accreditors that have allowed our colleges to become dominated by Marxist maniacs and lunatics.
Now, let me stop there for a second, okay? Because I want to make sure you guys remember what I have been saying. Now, this sounds like it could be part of the whole Project 2025. I've done 2 videos on Project 2025. In summary, what Project 2025 is, we already in this country for years already have a bureaucracy that has pretty much is what we call Washington, D.C. It's a bureaucracy. It's just extra stuff that just is there, and it pretty much runs the country in such a way that's inefficient, but it also runs it where certain narratives are used to go through this bureaucracy that we have. You know, maybe it's funding. Certain funding goes to certain projects and things like that. It's, you know, where ideologies are, it's an oven where ideologies are not just baked, but they're also funded and sent out and distributed through the rest of the country, right? So Washington, D.C. itself is a bureaucracy, okay? We already know this. Project 2025, at the end of the day, is taking that bureaucracy and saying, we're going to get rid of that bureaucracy and we're going to bring in our own bureaucracy, okay? You understand what I'm saying? So this is what people need to understand. It's not like, oh, everybody's going to be better and all. It's more government. It's government replacing government. It's going to be the same red tape. It's going to be the same stuff over and over again. When it comes to, let's say, when you're talking about the Department of Education, for example, oh my God, the Department of Education, they're going to take away our school books as black people. We go. Department of Education has been a historical failure to black people. So I'm not saying that what he's suggesting is going to be better. I'm just simply saying it's different than what we've already had. So you shouldn't be wanting to embrace what we already have. We've been complaining about it for decades. You understand what I'm saying? So I want to be clear about that. Everything that he's proposing here, it's taking one bureaucracy and replacing it with another. So, you know, it's what it is. I mean, you can get excited, choose to get excited about it or not. It's just more government for me. This platform here that you're listening and watching to, we are 100% about self-sufficiency. You will never see me sitting up here crying about, oh God, what are they doing in the government? I don't care about what they're doing there. You know, when it comes to our own children, we'll educate our own children, and we have done that. Do you understand what I'm saying? And we've been encouraging people like you to take active part in that. I don't depend on the government to make sure they teach everything about black history. I'm never going to depend on that. You crazy? No, we're going to take control of that and we're going to do it ourselves. I don't care who's in charge. You understand what I'm saying? So anyway, getting ahead of myself, I just wanted to make that clear that what he's proposing is bringing in another bureaucracy to replace the one that's already existing. So I'm not like, anyway, let's go.
We will then accept applications for new accreditors who will impose real standards on colleges once again and once and for all. These standards will include defending the American tradition and Western civilization, protecting free speech, eliminating wasteful administrative positions that drive up costs incredibly, removing all Marxist diversity, equity, and inclusion bureaucrats, offering options for accelerated and low-cost degrees, providing meaningful job placement and career services, and implementing college entrance and exit exams to prove that students are actually learning and getting their money's worth. Furthermore, I will direct the Department of Justice to pursue federal civil rights.
Sorry, I'm gonna go back, but this is, like I said, a lot of this stuff he's mentioning, it's already in place, but the ideology behind it is different. Do you understand what I'm saying? He's just coming in with a different ideology. So he's not really, you're just changing the music at the party, basically. That's all what I'm trying to say. All right, let me go back here so you can make sure we hear everything.
Entrance and exit exams to prove that students are actually learning and getting their money's worth. Furthermore, I will direct the Department of Justice to pursue federal civil rights cases against schools that continue to engage in racial discrimination and schools that persist in explicit unlawful discrimination under the guise of equity will not only have their endowments taxed, but through budget reconciliation, I will advance a measure to have them fined up to the entire amount of their endowment. A portion of the seized funds will then be used as restitution for victims of these illegal and unjust policies that hurt our country so badly. Colleges have gotten hundreds of billions of dollars from hardworking taxpayers, and now we are going to get this anti-American insanity out of our institutions once and for all. We are going to have real education in America.
Okay, so there you go. So you heard pretty much what he's saying there and what he's proposing. Okay, so let's start from here, okay? Now, the claim is that what he's stating here is that white people are going to get reparations. He did not at one point say directly that white people are going to get reparations, but I want you to follow me out, okay? Because are white people going to be benefit more out of what he's saying? Yes, but there's more to it. All right. So what he wanted, I want you to pay attention to what he brought out and what he's actually stating that he's going to be going against. And that he mentioned DEI, which is diversity, equity, and inclusion, DEI, or you may hear the equitable. Okay. What he says there, he is going after that policy. All right. This equitable policy where basically, think of CRT. All right. Remember, we talked about CRT as well, which is critical race theory. Now, what these elite or whoever you want to call it, what they have been successful at doing, particularly in the minds of a lot of black people, is getting black people to just automatically conclude that CRT or critical race theory is 100% about black history. It is not. You must take the time and look at it yourself. It uses black history as a Trojan horse, but when you dig into the details of it, what's inside of the Trojan horse is an LGBTQ plus agenda. In other words, inside of it, they say, okay, this is black history, but then they say, okay, we have a separate thing as well where we're going to be talking about the lesbians, the black lesbians and what they did. And now we're going to talk about the black gays and what they did. Now we're going to talk about the black transgender and all that stuff. So what you're doing is you're using it as kind of a sneak play to get this ideology into the classrooms. That is the part that people raise a lot of hell about. That part. It wasn't the black history part. Here's another myth that got to be destroyed yet again. There is this ongoing thing. People have been saying this on over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. They've been saying that this over and over again, that Florida is basically the state for where they're banning books. That has been proven incorrect. If you go to the state of Florida Department of Education, I've already done it. They've already said that, no, we're not doing that. There was maybe like a couple of books, but most of the books They're not banning them. In fact, they leave it up to the local school districts to decide what goes in the books, what goes in the classroom, and what doesn't. They tell you all of this on their page. And you can even look up USA Today. They did their own investigation, and they said it themselves. They said, this is false. It's false. It's not true. They're not going around and just snatching a bunch of black books, history books. That's not true. Again, see, this is what I'm saying. It's easy for people to repeat things, especially when they're going to be too lazy to look into this stuff themselves. Now, as someone who's a history buff, especially when it comes to black history, I definitely took notice of this, and I went to look myself to make sure, hey, is this really what's going on? Because if that's going on, that's crazy. But I looked into myself. They're not doing that. They're not doing that. And so critical race theory, this is what it does. Critical race theory, it uses black history as this, like I said, again, it's a Trojan horse to bring in this LGBTQ stuff as well. And that is the part that people got angry about and said, no, we're not going to have anything to do with it. And I 110% agree with it, period. And I go even further than that. Like I just said earlier, I am 100% pro black parents taking the lead in teaching your children about black history. I'm in 110% about that. I don't believe in leaving that responsibility to schools. I don't care if I pay taxes or not. I don't trust them. I don't trust any of them. You know, it's funny, speaking of black history, my mom, now I'm 54 years old and I'm talking to my mom. You know what she said? It was funny because I didn't even notice. It's funny when you get older, you start remembering some of these stories, but she remembered this particular story. Both of my grandparents, or great-grandmothers, both of my great-grandmothers, she said, you know, it's funny when they would, she said, I would go to their houses, and maybe some of y'all can relate to this. She said, when we would go see them, she said, I noticed that they always smelled like garlic. Now, both my dad and my mom's side, they both came, you know, from South Carolina. They came out of South Carolina. Okay. So they South folks. And so she said, the reason why, she said, I noticed that her grandmother, which would be my great grandmother, she said they used to always chew on garlic. And they would always, and she's wondered why. She said, why are they always chewing on garlic? Well, come to find out, they would chew on garlic because anytime they felt stress, they said that it would make them feel less stressed. So they would always chew on garlic. And this is, you know, like I said, again, this is my great grandmother on both sides of her family, you know, on my mom's side. She said they used to always chew on garlic. And then when she looked it up, come to find out, garlic has something in it that actually relieves you. It de-stresses you. And she was like, isn't that funny? She said, how would they know to do that? She said, now you're going to stink, you know what I'm saying? But they knew, our people knew to do these things. You know, when it comes to certain herbs and stuff that they just instinctively knew or was passed down from one generation to another. Why am I sharing that? It's because that's the stories that you're not going to get in public school. Do you understand what I'm saying? I don't trust public school to pass down that information. I don't trust public schools to teach and talk about the importance of growing your own herbs and stuff like that, and what different herbs did, and how black people, we totally were about going out and foraging our own stuff, and how there are books that are out there about how black people have itemized different herbs. This is what this does. This is what that does. I'm going way back. I don't trust them to to pass on that information. You understand what I'm saying? And if you trust them, then you a fool. Okay, I didn't know how else to say that, but it's just what it is. So don't get on this whole train that, oh my God, they're gonna take away our history. If they're taking away your history, then you're lazy. There's lots of history that we should be teaching ourselves on our own. We got far too much information. We got far too much access to technology where we can be teaching our own children all of our history. And we don't need the public school for anything. Now, as far as what he's talking about, let's dive into this a little bit more. Now, he's talking about this diversity, equity, and inclusion, all right? Or, you know, the DEI. Now, I think the best way to start this is let's take a look at a familiar video that I have played and I'm going to continue to play on repeat. Okay? Because what you're about to see is, in fact, DEI, the definition of it being played out. All right? So let me get this video up for you. It's a very short video. You guys remember this. This is U.S. Supreme Court Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson. Y'all remember this? She was asked a question. I want you to take a listen to what the question is and how she answered it. This is DEI right here in the House.
Woman.
Sorry about that. Go back.
Can I provide a definition?
Can you provide a definition for the word woman?
Can I provide a definition? No,
Yeah.
I can't.
You can't?
Not in
Okay.
this context.
So you
I'm not a
believe the
biologist.
meaning of the word woman is so unclear and controversial that you can't give me a definition?
Senator, in my work as a judge, what I do is I address disputes. If there's a dispute about a definition, people make arguments, and I look at the
All right.
law and I decide. So I'm not.
The fact that you can't give me a straight answer about something as fundamental as what a woman is underscores the dangers of the kind of progressive education that we are hearing about.
All right.
Hey,
Sorry. Okay, so here you go. Let's set this up here. So here you go. You have a black woman who is about to become the first black woman Supreme Court justice, which is something that should be celebrated, right? It should be celebrated. It's yet one of many great accomplishments that our black women have made in this country. So it's a time to really sit back and say, wow, this is really something. I've lived to see this. And so she is representative of many black women who hold the benches all across the United States in courtrooms, attorneys, the whole nine. Here you got this black woman who's reached this highest point when it comes to being someone who interprets the law for the people. So it's something, like I said, again, that should be celebrated. But here you have this case where she's being asked a simple question. What is a woman? Define it. And what's her response? I can't define that. I can't define what a woman is. And so, of course, the woman that was questioning her, it was taken aback. She said, wait a minute, you telling me you can't define it? And she, went through the whole she can't define it. Now, you may be asking right now, okay, well, what does that mean? What do that got to do with anything? Follow me and you'll hear what I'm talking about. So, of course, she is not the originator of this whole DEI thing, but what she expressed at that moment, it shows you this is the picture of what it means when you're talking about inclusion and equity. In other words, you are seeing people based on these certain identifiers. Like if you want to, affirmative action, for example, affirmative action was more or less about, gender had something to do with it, but it also was race. When we're dealing with DEI, it's like part two of affirmative action, where now gender or people who want to identify as something, other than what they're born, it becomes even more of an issue. And what she just described there and what she just demonstrated there is exactly, and I'm going to give you some more examples here, is exactly what this whole pushback is, or, quite a bit of this pushback is really about. It's now you're leaning heavily into that direction. All right. And so anyway, here she had the opportunity as a black woman to say, you know what, as a woman, this is who a woman is, give a quick definition of a woman, and then that's it. But what she did was she left the door open, and now guess who's coming through the door that she left open at that moment. You got men who want to one day decide, hey, you know what? I'm a strong black woman. You got women who are now saying, hey, listen, I'm a strong black man, or I'm a strong man. You got children that are saying, you know what, mommy, daddy, I know I was born a boy or girl or whatever, but I don't feel that anymore. I feel like I can go either way. So what she demonstrated, again, I'm not saying she's the author of it because she certainly isn't. What she demonstrated, at that moment where she could have defined all of the shoulders that she stood on as a black woman, she had her moment in history where she could have drew that line and made it very clear what is a woman, but she didn't. Now, why am I harping on this whole woman thing? Because what Trump is really talking about when he's talking about DEI, you know who's impacted by this the most, I believe? It's really women. Women are the ones that are going to be the most impacted by this now. Because like I said, and I've been saying this, if you've been following me, I've been saying this over and over again. Black women who got behind Kamala and her saying, hey, listen, the trannies can come and all this. Hey, we're all for them. And we want the black preachers that push this stuff. What these people didn't stop to think and realize is that, and I'm talking specifically the black women who supported her, is that they by default are pushing for yet another hurdle that they got to go over. Because see, the way society, a normal society is set up, you got the men and you got the women, right? Women, they got their thing, the men got their thing, and we intermingle and all of that. We function and operate or whatever. But we do have, there's certain things in place right now where, they try to balance things out. Like if you're going to, you got to have a certain amount of men, you got to have a certain amount of women, you got to have certain this, that, or whatever, right? But what they are pushing by opening the door, leaving the door open as she just did, is now specifically women. Now you got to compete against men who want to be you. So you're not just competing against other women now. And now all of a sudden you're competing against other people that want to be you. So all these people so a man now can one day say, hey, listen, the heck with being a man, shoot, I'm going to be a black woman now. Let me go down here to Brown & Co. factory and let me get me a dress real quick. And let me go to the Korean man down the street, get me a wig, and now I'm a woman. I'm identify as a woman. I'm a black woman. That's right. I'm a black woman. That's what I'm identifying as now. And so now you have businesses now that got to say, well, this is a woman now. Now I know you're a woman too, and this is it. This is what he's talking about, okay? So that's part of it. But let me now give you some examples of more of what I'm talking about and how this plays out, all right? Now, I'll give you this. This is another woman too. This is a person was being interviewed by Ted Cruz. Let me show you this. But then I'm going to show you some real world examples of how this plays out. All right, let's go here. Let me go. All right, this was last year.
You guys know the differences.
Ms. Robinson, do you agree with Ms. Gaines that there's a difference between women and men?
If the question is about trans women,
I'm just asking, is there a difference between women and men?
what I can say here is that the NCAA has rules in place. They've had rules in place for the last decade, and when this competition happened,
I'm going to try again.
the rules were clear.
Do you believe there's a difference between women and men? It's a yes/no question. Do you believe there's a difference?
Oh, I think that we're talking about this case with the NCAA.
No, I'm asking a question. Do you believe there's a difference between women and men? Most people could answer this very simply. I'm curious if you're willing to do so.
Oh, absolutely. I'm just putting it into the context of the
Is that a yes?
conversation that we're having. I think that there are definitions related to sex.
Is
but
that
I
a
also
yes?
think
So I'm
that
trying to
when
get a yes or no. I'm not trying to get a speech.
Is
there a difference between women and men?
I think that there are definitions for biological sex.
Okay, so you're
which
not
is
answering
different
that.
than
Let me ask
gender.
you this question then. Why do women's sports exist? If you can't define a difference between women and men, why not abolish women's sports and just tell little girls to swim with little boys and see who wins?
Oh, I'm simply saying that that sex is
My
different
question,
than gender.
why
and I do
do-
believe
why
that
do
women's
women's
sports have a great
exist?
value. I mean, Senator, I'll tell you right
Ms.
now.
Robinson, please answer the question I'm asking you.
Absolutely.
Why do women's sports exist?
I think that there are so many positive benefits to sports.
But
I mean,
why have a
we've talked
separate
about it here
category for
today.
women? If there's no difference between women and men, why to have women's sports?
I'm saying that there's a difference between sex and gender, and that the NCAA has rules in place, which they have for the last decade.
Mr. Chairman,
which
I would
determine
like to enter into
related
the
to
record an
participation.
article from Duke Law called Comparing Athletic Performances for the Best Elite Women to Boys and Men. And it goes through examining in 2017 the top records for women in the world in various track and field events. So, for example, in the 100 meter, the top record for women in the world was 10.71 seconds. Now, that record for the number one woman in the world in 2017 was, in the year 2017, broken by 124 boys under 18. In that same year, the record for the number one competing woman in the 100-meter dash in the world was broken by a total of 2,474 men. If the radical Democrat agenda to destroy girls' sports and women's sports succeeds, little girls will not have a chance to compete. So I ask unanimous consent that this article be entered into the record.
Without objection. Senator Padilla.
So here you go. Here's another. This is an example where we have a black woman who is in a high position of authority, given the opportunity to draw the line when it comes to defining in very strict terms who a woman is. We're still on the topic of equitable and inclusion. All right. We're still on that topic. This is exactly what Trump is talking about. And by the way, just for the record, I did not vote for Trump. I didn't. OK, because I'm done with the duopoly. I'm not, Republicans. I already know ultimately where that road leads. When it comes to Democrats, it's the same thing. So, no, I'm not either one. When it came to voting, I voted. I did a write-in. I came up with a name called abolition. I want to abolish this system that we're in. I did a write-in. I voted for everything else, but when it came to the president, I didn't do that. OK, but at the same time, on this platform, we're about going to the truth of it. I don't care if it's coming from Democrats. I don't care if it's coming from Republicans. I don't care if it's coming from the Green Party. When it comes to politics, like I said, I really don't care too much about it. But the rhetoric, a lot of times, what I do care about is when people don't take the time to investigate like we're doing right now and look at the details so that we can get to the bottom of it and see what's truth and what's not. So at the end of the day, I don't care if you ride with the jackass or the elephant. I don't care. But we have to be a people that stand on truth at the end of the day. What my interests are is black folks and us getting things right and get off of the merry-go-round of foolishness that's out here that has kept us in this never-ending death spiral. That's what I'm about. OK, so when it comes to looking at issues like what we're talking about tonight, DEI or CRT, we're going to look at the truth of that, because there's far too many people who have just embraced these things as this is our stuff, but they didn't look at the details of it. And I don't care if it's a black person leading it or not. You still got to look at the details. And the details run contrary to what our ancestors and our people have stood on for hundreds of years. So that's what I'm looking at. Now, if that's problematic for you and you, then okay, fine. But that's what we're about. And I just want to make that very clear. All right. All right, so now let's look at this here. Sorry. I'm not going to play this video here because it's too long, but this in this one video that I have, they're saying female athletes lost nearly 900 medals to transgender athletes. Now, that's according to a UN report. 900 medals. All right. This is all to what Trump is addressing here. All right. So this is now we're going to get to ABC News. This was 6 years ago. Wow, that was quite a bit. Michael Statham. I hope that I'm saying that right. By the way, this whole story that you see running around with him not putting his hand over the heart, that's a bunch of crap. I mean, come on. I mean, y'all people gonna throw this man under the bus because he wouldn't put his hand over his heart. You know, I'm like, okay, really? I mean, so I see stuff like that too. I'm like, okay, that's y'all going way too much over that. But I want you to look at this particular story here, and I want you to see how this applies specifically to black women.
Now to a GMA Exclusive, 2 transgender high school runners, well, they're kicking up dust in Connecticut, taking the top spots at the state girls championship, leaving parents wondering if they have an unfair advantage. Lindsay Davis is here, and you sat down with the track stars to talk all about this.
That's right, Michael. We're talking about a subject that's so sensitive that Andrea and Terry, who you're about to meet, felt when it was time to tell their parents that they're transgender, they each revealed it by text, and now they have gone public with it, and they're facing opposition from people who say even though you may feel like a girl, you need to compete against the boys.
Terry Miller and Andrea Yearwood dominating the competition at the Girls Track and Field Championships in Connecticut earlier this month, coming in first and second place respectively. And while it was a state race, their wins are making national headlines, not because of what they did, but because of who they are, 2 transgender girls.
When was the first time that either of you found any kind of opposition to you participating on the girls' team?
I was expecting it, so every day I would go home, search up Track and Field High School, Terry Miller.
Because you wanted to know what people were saying?
Yeah.
Some of those comments were harsh. Critics complaining that Andrea and Terry both have an unfair advantage since they were born boys.
At what point do you decide, actually, it's more appropriate for me to be on the girls' team and competing with other girls?
I decided that the summer before 9th grade.
They've both started hormone therapy and say that for the most part they've been welcomed by friends, family, coaches, and administrators with open arms. But there is some backlash from parents and students. 2 petitions were even started in an attempt to change the current rule of the state's governing body of interscholastic sports. The rule states that students are entitled to participate on a team based on their gender identity, how they identify.
The girls athletes are at the physical disadvantage compared to the transgender female.
Bianca Stanescu started one of those petitions after her daughter Selena lost to Andrea and Terry at a track meet in May.
They have naturally testosterone within their body that has been proven to give a physical advantage in sports.
The mom, who was unaware that the girls were already undergoing hormone therapy, has gotten a little over 100 signatures. Medical science tells us that estrogen hormone therapy does change the body, replacing some lean muscle with fat. But of course, everyone is different. Andrea's parents say what's most important to them is the well-being of their child.
Track is number 100 on my list of concerns as a father of a transgender daughter. I'm talking about raising a child for a life. And so is it fair that that child is excluded? Is it fair that that child doesn't feel like they have a place to belong?
It allows her to be who she wants to be, and I think that has a little bit more weight than...
So y'all listen, there was a time where we would sit back and say, oh man, that's some crazy stuff. The white people, they push that stuff. That's white people stuff. They do that stuff. There was a time we used to say that, but no. You saw these parents are black. They're pushing this. This is why I said, listen, you got just because someone looks like you doesn't mean that they're for you. And by default, think of all the other biological black women, young black women who have trained for this moment, only to be told that, okay, now in your next race, you're going to have to race against these 2 dudes who are presenting themselves as women. How do you sit down and explain that to your daughter? And how do you try to say that with a straight face that, well, you know, even though they may be that, but at the end of the day, they are women. This all falls into equity and inclusion. It's all falling under this. And this is what they're putting in the educational system. This is what Trump was talking about. All right.
Just winning a medal.
The rules vary from state to state. In 7 states, including Texas, students must play on the team that matches their birth certificate, or have undergone surgery, or have had extended hormone therapy, while the NCAA requires the completion of 1 year of testosterone suppression. Medical research cannot really identify the line where a competitive advantage might exist for trans athletes of either gender.
What do you want to say to other transgender youth, young people, teens who are out there really struggling through this process?
Just follow your heart. Like, don't let other people determine what you do in life.
Let's just play devil's advocate for a moment and just imagine that you were both born girls, and then all of a sudden you had 2 boys who identified as being girls, and they said, hey, we're going to be on your team, and maybe now you're not performing as well because they are better.
I'm not going to discourage you or try to say, oh, it's not fair, and it would just push me to run faster. I'd be happy for them because they get to do what they want. They're happy, so then that should in turn make me happy. And they're brave. They're just different from everybody.
I'm just gonna leave it there. So think of, you got to also think of the young black girls in high school, college, right? And I got another story here, because it ain't just that. I just wanted to show that, because that story there hits home with most of us because they black. Because if you think for one moment this is a white people thing and that it's only going to impact white people, think again, it's already impacting black folks. It's been, and then you got black people who are encouraging this stuff, and it's by default displacing other black people. When you talk about this equity and inclusion stuff, you're also including that. This is what a lot of people were out here pushing. Oh, we got to get Kamala in there no matter what. We got to get her in there. She'll be the first black, she's Indian, by the way, but she'll be the first black woman in there. And we got to get her in there because she represents everything. She represents all of us. Meanwhile, the Indian folks are like this. But a lot of our people didn't take the time to consider what's on the other end of this. You understand what I'm saying? And that's what we're doing in this broadcast. I'm showing you right there in real time what's on the other end. And now our young black girls, like I told you, I think what Trump is talking about really is going to have a greater impact on women than it does with men. Here's another story. Have you been hearing about the controversy? Sorry. Have you been hearing about in the NCAA? There's been many volleyball teams that are saying, man, the heck with this stuff. We're forfeiting games. I'm trying to find is this it?
Controversy concerning the.
Trying to see if this is it here. Oh, there's the video right here. Here's the video right here. There in the NCAA, there's been quite a few college teams, female volleyball teams. They're saying the heck with it. We're not going to endanger our lives playing against men. And so they've been forfeiting games, which is going to translate into, probably their scholarship money, because, scholarship is tied to, your performance in, if it's a sports scholarship, you got to play the sports. But if you're forfeiting, that can have an impact. Again, this is what he was talking about. All right, so let's go.
Has forfeited a game against San Jose State's volleyball team, and the university is stepping up security for players. This is all part of an apparent protest against allowing transgender athletes on college sports teams. NBC Bay Area's Ian Cole has the latest.
The San Jose State volleyball team was given extra security tonight as the team will play at Colorado State. It follows allegations there is a transgender athlete on the SJSU team and a federal lawsuit against the NCAA's policy, which allows transgender athletes to compete on women's teams under certain conditions. A member of the Spartans roster joined that suit last week, claiming having a transgender teammate is unsafe for her teammates, and opposing teams. NBC Bay Area is not naming the player. 4 schools have now forfeited games against the Spartans, the latest Utah State, and joining Southern Utah, Wyoming, and Boise State. The statements from those schools did not include a reason, but state lawmakers like the governor of Idaho and House Speaker in Utah have applauded the decision, saying they're taking action to preserve women's sports.
I think it's great that San Jose State University is taking a stand by just not making a change to who is on their team.
Gabrielle Antolovich is the board president of the Billy DeFrank LGBTQ+ Community Center in San Jose. She says the real danger is the movement against the athlete.
Because when people hate a class of people, then they will individually harm those people who are part of that class.
San Jose State denied our request to interview the president or the athletic director.
All right, you heard enough there. But I wanted to show this because I want you to see that this is a very real thing that's been unfolding on colleges and universities in the athletic field, that in the athletic space. That's I'm just picking that as one example of when we're talking about equitable or equity and inclusion. This is how it impacts. This is the impact. And this is what Trump is saying that he's claiming that he's going to try to shut down. How is that going to play out? Who knows? Will it play out? Whatever. But my point in pointing these things out to black folks, especially, is not for you to, all right, you got to be Team Trump now and all that. No, there's right and there's wrong. I have a daughter. Now, she's not in college, but, you know, I have a daughter, and I can imagine if going back in time, she's an adult now. I can imagine, man, what if it's enough to get her hype, at that time. Okay, you want to play soccer? I don't want to do it. I said, come on, you could do it. Knowing as an adult, man, listen, it's going to build some things into her and all that. And finally you get her encouraged, and now she's on there, and you get her built up, and now she's on the field. She's getting excited about getting her uniform, getting her cleats and all of that. And she gets on the field and finds out that she's playing against some boys that pretending to be girls. The impact that will have on our young girls, it's crazy. And this is what, as a people, we should be standing against anyway. But we won't, but unfortunately, there's too many. When you look at, sit down and look at the people who got behind Kamala, this is the fine print they didn't want to look at. They didn't want to look at this part. Okay. Now, the final thing, then let me show you this. This is not a video. This came out. Y'all remember this story about this boxer? This boxer here, y'all remember this story? And first they were saying that, this boxer, they were saying that, that's a woman. It's a woman. It's a woman. And y'all should be ashamed of yourself for calling that out. This person beat the brakes off of that woman. You remember that? Beat the brakes off. The woman just gave up. She was like, I'm done. I can't do it. I can't do it. I'm not going to box this person. And people rightfully called out what their eyes were seeing and said, no, this is crazy. How you going to have this woman fighting this man in this boxing match? And then some report came out. They said, we did a test and it's actually a woman and all that stuff, right? Remember that? And they went out and people were trying to shame everybody. How dare you? See how wrong you were? Well, guess what? Another report just came out. And they're saying that, no, it was actually, you guys were right. It was a man. So this woman literally got a woman that she was boxing literally got the brakes beat off of her. And we're supposed to sit back and to act and pretend that we're not seeing what we're seeing. This is, let me see if I had this video here. Let me see. Okay, yeah, this one here. I don't even have to turn the volume up on this one. This is the boxer here. This is her right here. It's right here. This is the boxer here. Now, I'm sorry, my eyes see what they see. My eyes see what they see. This is the boxer right here. You gonna sit there and tell me, sorry, you gonna tell me that's a woman. You gonna tell me come on, man. Anyway, I don't need to see anything else. But see, this is, again, we got, it's what it is. Now, as far as so what Trump is saying in the last part, he's saying, listen, we're going to take a stance against this, and then people who are been impacted by this, we're going to see that, they're going to get paid back, whatever losses or whatever, we're going to make sure they get paid back based on whatever we're able to recover from the losses or whatever. That's what he's saying. Now, by default, most people that are going to benefit from that, yeah, you're right, it is going to be white people. But however, it's also including other people as well, that, as I just pointed out in this broadcast this evening, it's also including other people. But we also got to look at this whole thing of notion of calling it reparations. Okay, reparations and this restitution that he's talking about are two different things. When we're talking about reparations as Black Americans, we're talking about hundreds of years of being economically separated from the general economy. We're talking about 40 acres and a mule. We're talking about all the other things when it comes to medical disenfranchisement, educational disenfranchisement. I mean, there's a whole laundry list of things that need to be paid back. Do you understand what I'm saying? So to compare what he's talking about in this small slither of a issue to reparations, there's no comparison. There's absolutely no comparison. But I will say this, is that what Trump demonstrated, and I give credit to Yvette Carnell of ADOS, because ADOS, I will give them this credit, is that they have been very specific on what Black Americans should be requesting. And they've been very specific on that. Black Americans, that's it. Ain't all this other stuff. It's Black Americans. So they've been very specific on this the whole time. It's now that these other people are now wanting to catch up on this stuff. But what was I saying? What was the point I was trying to say as far as ADOS specific? What was the point I was getting at? And what was I saying? Basically, I'm saying is that we have to be specific in our request when it comes to reparations. That's what it was. There's no comparison. That's my point. There is absolutely no comparison to this. Reparations, you're talking hundreds and hundreds of years. Oh, that's what it was. Now I remember now. What she was saying, Yvette Carnell was saying, is that if anything, this demonstrates how easy it is to address at least a slice of repaying something, a debt. Do you understand what I'm saying? How easy it is to get it done. And she's absolutely right. None of this, we got to do a big study on it. No, that's wrong. And let's get it done. And that's what Trump is doing. So, yeah, so it's not reparations when you look at the grand scope of it. Now, what's my view again? I know. Someone said Yvette is a lesbian. And I know, isn't that the irony of it? That's a total irony. But like I said, again, truth is truth. I mean, like what her approach to this, I've been closely watching on this particular topic that we're talking about. She's absolutely right on that. Doesn't mean I got to agree with her lifestyle or anything like that. But at the end of the day, what she, laid out, it's the case she's laid out as far as reparations. It's what it is. You understand what I'm saying? So I hear that though. But anyway, what was I saying? Now, when it comes to reparations, now this is what I have said many times before when it comes to my view on reparations, and I'll say it one more time. Okay, for those who are brand new to the channel, maybe you haven't heard, my take on it or whatever, but this is for those, let me just be clear when it comes to reparations. Do I agree that Black people, Black Americans, who can trace their roots to transatlantic slave trade, do I believe that we are entitled to some form of payment for all of that? Absolutely. That's a yes and done as far as I'm concerned. Do I believe that? Absolutely. Do I believe we're entitled to that? Absolutely. Do I believe in this system that we're in? Will they make that happen? No, absolutely. I do not. And this is where some people will automatically check out and say, you're a defeatist, then you're this or that or whatever. You can call me whatever you want. I'm a realist. I do not believe that this system that has demonstrated that it does not have any interest in executing true justice when it comes to what our people went through, is all of a sudden going to just fork over billions and billions and billions of dollars. They're not going to do that. They are about themselves at the end of the day, as Trump demonstrated. Because see, while the black people, the black women that I pointed out, Ketanji Brown Jackson, right? And then other woman who are in high positions of authority that could have set the standard and said, you know what, this is this and this is that, and that's it. But they chose to leave the door wide open. But not just them, all the other black women, all the other black men who decided to abandon the being, this is black, this is white, this is this group, and this is that group. In other words, they're very focused. Black people were, on one side, we're very focused on, we have to be specific on who we are. You understand what I'm saying? That's what you see right now, where you got black Americans saying, hey, listen, we're black Americans. We're not Jamaicans. We're not this or that or whatever. We're black Americans. And I understand that. And I get exactly where they're coming from. I agree with it. You understand what I'm saying? In this divesting kind of thing that's happening right now. I do agree with it. The extent to where it's going, the name calling and all this stuff. And yeah, that's a whole nother topic. And I'll get into that. Of course, I'm not with that. But from a legal standpoint, it makes a lot of sense. And I agree with it. So these individuals had the opportunity, and I'm talking about even those that when people were bringing up, hey, listen, Kamala, what are you going to do about reparations? What are you going to do about reparations? What's your specific plan when it comes to black Americans? Well, if you think I'm going to do anything specific for black Americans, I ain't doing nothing. She made it very clear she wasn't going to address us as a specific group. And I'm not talking about just grabbing something at the last minute and throwing it together. I'm talking about being just as intentional as you are with Jewish people. That's what I'm talking about. Now, if she was sitting down with Jewish people, she's going to break it all down. She's going to tell you everything. But when it comes to black Americans, she's going to grab a SBA loan here. She's going to grab some stuff that's already existing and just slap it together. No, that's not how this works. There were some very specific things that happened to us as a people, and it needs to be addressed specifically. So I agree with the argument that, yes, we are entitled to reparations. However, I am a realist. This current system is not interested in doing that for you. It's not. It's not. It doesn't mean you just give up and just throw your hands up and that's it. I say continue to make the argument until you die. I say continue to do it because what? It's right. Because it's right and it needs to stay continuously on the public record. But as long as this system that we're in right now is still in functional and operational like it is right now, they're not handing you over. They're not giving you nothing. They're not. They're not. And you have to be real about that. You just got to be honest about that. And that's why on this platform, we try to help people and point you in the direction of, listen, the argument is sound, but what are the things we can do with the access we have right now? What are the things we can do? Well, one of the things we can do, we can address the health issue. Okay, the health issue. Our people are suffering when it comes to different health ailments. Let's focus on that. Let's build our own resources so that we can address things like I was saying earlier when it comes to high blood pressure and diabetes, things like that. These are things we can do right now. I even, if you look at the video I did a while back, I talked the whole thing that we actually put into practice, developing not a database, a network, of natural and herb that's based on natural remedies, where we can reach out to each other and all that. Go back and watch that video. We talked about that, and it's something we actually put into practice. When it comes to, other things as well, lending to each other and all this other stuff. There are things that we can do right now, but we cannot, and it will not happen until we draw a line when it comes to making sure we root out the people that have bad character. This whole notion that I'm rooting for everybody that's black, that has to be balled up and thrown in the trash, because guess what? I'm not doing that. And if anything, this election should have shown you that you should not think that way. Because within all of these people that may look like you, there's a portion, a significant portion, that want to kill you. And you need to know that, and you got to accept that for what it is. That's reality, but we don't want to talk about that. We don't want to talk about that. But we have to deal with that. These individuals that we've been pointing out on this platform that's talking about poisoning black men and, you know, telling people that you need to separate yourself from your black family and all that during the holiday season and all that stuff. Those individuals must be separated from us, and they need to go away. They don't need to be a part of the conversation anymore. We don't need to have anything to do with them. I have no interest in helping them people. They want to go out there and you want to put that stuff out there. You want to actually plan on killing me? And I'm supposed to sit back and be like, well, you know, hey, we all brothers and sisters at the same time. No, you need to get the hell up out of here. All the way out of here. I can't build with somebody that's talking crazy like that. This is why we also talk about mental health and wellness and things like that. We spend a lot of time talking about those things and why those things are so important. But these are things that we can address now. We can address those things now. We don't, you know what I'm saying? We don't have to wait till when I get that check. No, these are things we can do now. The argument for reparations is a sound one. It's a right one, and it needs to be made over and over and over and over and over and over again. And I've said that many, many times. But the system in of itself, this is the one element of this argument. The people who are making this argument, for some at least, deep down inside, they have this belief that somehow America, the system that America is built on, actually loves you. They don't. And they're not going to do that for you. They're not. So this is why we have to start sorting out the crazies and start building what we can with our own two hands and with the resources that we have right now. And we can do a lot. There's a lot of things we can do. There's a lot of things we can do, but we have to be honest with this whole thing. Just like when we listen to, whether if we're listening to Trump or whether we listen to someone on the left, it doesn't matter. Truth is truth, period. It is. And that's what this movement that I believe that we're launched into since after this election, we're launched into this now. We have been given an opportunity to establish some things, to put some things in motion, to get things in order so that we can move forward as a people. But we also got to be real and say, you know, there's some people, deuces, I can't mess with you anymore. I can't rock with you anymore. You know what I mean? You crazy. You know, and if people that don't want to read, you know, and they just, you know, you present them information and they still want to read, they just all in their emotions. I don't have time for that anymore. I'm not going to waste my time with that anymore. But you tonight, as I'm closing, you know, and that's why we talk about the whole church thing. The church system, it's got to be brought down, period. Aren't you tired of hearing about our children getting turned out? Are you tired of that? Maybe you're not tired of that. Maybe that's okay. Maybe you just accepted that for what it is. Aren't you tired of that? When you see the video, the next installment that we're going to do, I got stories of how this system has done damage. And why am I focusing on that? Because the other end of it, this is where you get the gay men. This is where they, you know, I'm not going to say all of them, but you do have a significant number that come out of situations like that. We got to draw the line and say enough is enough and stop calling them just, well, that's just what he is. He's just funny. No. Something caused this man to be what he is. Something caused this young lady to think that that's what she is. Something caused this young man or young woman, or rather this young woman, to convince herself that she needs to cut her breast off. That don't bother you? Does that not bother you? You okay with that? So we have to dig in and find out what are the root causes of these things. So that's where we're going to start at. That's where we're looking at, in that direction. There's other things we can look at, but we're going to start on this platform. We're looking at that direction. And hopefully on the other end, people can say, you know what? We need to deal with that. Let's cut that off. And then we can move on to some other things. Then we can start talking about economics. Then we can start talking about that, because now you're building with people who have sound minds. You understand what I'm saying? And people who have been healed. Now you can start building. Right now you're trying to build with people who haven't been healed. They're broken. And that's what we want to address. Do our part here on this platform is to address that. So yeah, so when he talks about the whole equitable and all of that, inclusion stuff, that cold talk is very dangerous for us. And I don't care who's leading the charge against it. I just know I want to see it brought down. And that's what this whole broadcast is about, is addressing that and how we have to be honest when we're talking about that, and not just running with this rhetoric that's flying around and, oh, they're getting their reparations and we ain't, or whatever nonsense. Hopefully now you understand, now we're able to have a more deeper conversation about all of this and walk away with a little bit more clarity. Again, not getting you to ride with the Republicans or the Democrats, but getting you to ride on truth and truth only. You understand what I'm saying? That's what this is all about. So that's it. That's all I have for you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. You guys take care, and I'll see you next time. Take care now.